What if I told you that the most powerful AI in the world learned how to think by copying the one thing you're using to watch this right now, your own brain? Today, we're going to unravel the blueprint of modern AI, the neural network.
So have you ever really wondered how a machine can recognize your face in a photo, or how your phone just understands what you're saying? Well, the secret lies in technology that is directly inspired by the human brain. We call them neural networks, and they're built from these interconnected layers of digital neurons that process information and learn patterns, pretty much just like we do.
All right, so to see how they really work, we've got to look under the hood. Let's start with the basic blueprint, the anatomy of this digital brain.
Okay, so every single piece of data goes on this little journey. It all starts at the input layer. This is where raw information, like say the pixels of an image, gets fed into the system. From there, it dives into the hidden layers. Now, this is where the real magic happens. It's the core of the network where all the heavy lifting and thinking gets done. And finally, after all that analysis, the journey ends at the output layer, which gives us the final result: a prediction, a category, an answer.
So, what's actually doing all that work inside these layers? Well, it all comes down to millions of tiny, interconnected units called neurons. You can think of them as the little messengers of this digital brain. At its core, a neuron is really just a tiny decision maker. It takes in a bunch of signals from other neurons. It figures out how important they all are combined, and then it makes one crucial choice. Is this signal strong enough to pass along to the next layer?
The easiest way to think about it, just imagine a group of friends passing along a message. See, each person doesn't just blindly repeat what they heard, they decide how important it is before choosing whether or not to pass it on. That's pretty much exactly what every single neuron is doing. And when you scale that up to millions or even billions of neurons, you get this absolutely incredible web of communication. It's not about one single genius neuron. It's the collective intelligence of the entire network that leads to that final, often brilliant conclusion.
So we have the structure, but a static blueprint isn't very smart, is it? The real genius of a neural network is its ability to learn. So how does it get smarter? It all comes down to this powerful cycle of trial, error, and a little bit of genius. It all happens in this really fast learning loop. First, in what's called the forward pass, the network makes its best guess. Then it calculates the loss, which is just a fancy way of measuring how wrong its guess was. And finally, here comes the magic, the backward pass. The network uses its mistake to go all the way back through its steps, tweaking the strength of its connections so it can make a better guess the next time.
And it just keeps repeating this loop. Guess, check, correct, thousands, sometimes millions of times. This whole process is how a network goes from knowing absolutely nothing to becoming an expert. It literally learns from its mistakes.
But hold on, there's a key piece missing here. How does a neuron actually decide if a signal is important enough to pass on? That decision is made by a critical component called an activation function, and you can think of it like the network's on switch.
Put simply, an activation function is like a little gatekeeper. It looks at the incoming signal and asks one question: is this important enough to act on? If the answer is yes, the neuron fires and passes the message forward. If not, it just stays quiet. This simple decision, repeated millions of times, is absolutely key to the network's power.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Not all switches are the same. You've got functions like ReLU, which is a simple on or off switch, but then there are others, like Sigmoid or Tanh, that act more like a dimmer, allowing for a whole range of outputs. This variety is what gives a network the flexibility to learn all kinds of complex patterns, from language to images.
And let me tell you why this matters so much. Without these little switches, a neural network could only learn really simple, straight-line relationships. It would basically be a glorified calculator. Activation functions are what allow the network to grasp the messy, complex, and totally unpredictable patterns of the real world.
So that's all the theory. Layers, neurons, learning loops. But now, let's get to the payoff. Why does any of this matter? Because whether you know it or not, these digital brains are already a huge part of your world. Every single time your phone unlocks with your face, a neural network is doing image recognition. When you ask Siri or Alexa for the weather, that's speech recognition in action. And when you're just blown away by the creativity of something like ChatGPT, you're witnessing advanced natural language processing. I mean, from the AI opponents in your favorite games to the promise of self-driving cars, neural networks are the engine that's driving our future. So we'll end with this thought.
We built these incredible artificial minds by mimicking our own. Now, as they grow more and more capable, the real question becomes, what can they, in turn, inspire in us? Thanks for tuning in.